Welcome back everyone to the Visvim Pioneer channel. Today I'm going to be making a video that's been widely requested, and that's ranking all of my Visvim boot collection. Before we get started, I wanted to note a few things. So one is obvious, this list is completely subjective and what might be my preference may not be yours. Of course, when it comes to things like sizing, comfort, style, wearability, those are things that I'm going to give my personal opinion on. Your experience might be completely different than what I'm describing. But from the current boots that I have, I just wanted to give you guys an insight and just answer some of the common questions that I've been receiving lately. And while I do have more boots coming in 2025 for my trunk show order, I thought that this would be a good time to give you guys my opinion and perspective on the, overall on my boot collection. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with number 8. So at number 8, we have the Visvim VIRGIL boot. So this is the 2023 release in the sand colorway. First, let me start by saying, even though this is ranked, the lowest, it does not mean it's a bad boot or not something that I truly enjoy wearing. I think this list, obviously, with this being the Visvim Pioneer channel, it's obvious that I'm a fan of the brand. So the fact that this is number 8 has nothing to do with the quality of this boot. It's more of the fact that I just enjoy wearing the others I'm going to be showing today. So the Visvim VIRGIL, this is one of those Visvim silhouettes that is, kind of widely available. The sand colorway is probably the most infamous out the bunch. It's extremely easy to wear. It goes with just about everything. It's got, those hiking boot eyelets, and it's a rather short boot. It features that custom, Visvim Vibram outsole and that TPU stabilizer at the heel, similar to like FBTs. The Visvim VIRGIL might hold a special place for other collectors because it's kind of like one of the entryways to Visvim, I would say. A lot of people get started on the VIRGIL. That wasn't the case for me. This is a 2023 release, and so I picked it up relatively recently. The reason I waited so long to pick up a VIRGIL is because I wanted the ICT pair, and it was made available to me, but the size 11, the mud on it was just too much, and so the boot had shrank quite a bit and it just wasn't comfortable for me. And the reason I didn't pick up one of the more traditional suede colorways is because they were kind of always available. I know that it's a model that comes and goes during different seasons, and so I didn't feel the rush to necessarily purchase it. But with that being said, even though it's at the bottom of this list, it is still, it still does have, its high points. The boot is constructed of a UK vegetable tanned cow suede. I believe that other colorways of this release were a Swedish vegetable tan cow suede. Nonetheless, it's extremely soft. It kind of reminds me of the Common Project Chelsea boot that was extremely popular. I had a pair of those too, but they were a bit more yellow. And I think that these overall, just the muted tone on it, it's extremely easy to wear, and it's kind of like what a boot should be, right? It's extremely simple, it's versatile, but it's rugged. Now, if this was a list based on comfort, these would probably be towards the top. I find them to be one of the more comfortable boots, especially because of the midsole. So with that being said, let's take a look at number 7. So at number 7, we have the Visvim Decoy duck boot from 2021. So this might be a surprise to many of you because I'm constantly, singing this boot praise, but at the end of the day, this is kind of where it sits when comparing it to the rest of my collection. Now, this boot is inspired by, the LL Bean duck boot, and it's one of those Visvim silhouettes that they've honestly perfected up until this point. It has a mixture of vegetable tanned leather and suede. The Native American inspiration is obvious when it comes to this fringe here towards the toe box. The leather used on this is extremely soft and supple. The grain on it is also really nice to look at. The reason why these boots are ranked relatively low is because they're just a little bit harder to pull off for me. Of course, it's a brown boot, so I pretty much rotate my clothing with the same flannels. You guys have seen me wear the same clothes several times, but I just feel like it's harder to mix these with different parts of my wardrobe than it would be some of the other releases that I'll be showing. This is also the first release I picked up at a trunk show, so it is special in that regard. While it does hold that special place in my heart, it's not towards the top of my entire collection. So with that being said, let's take a look at number 6. So moving on to number 6, we have the Visvim Poundmaker. This is the release from 2023. This boot might seem to rank a little bit low to you guys, but I'll give you my reasoning why it's ranked relatively low for me. So first and foremost is the colorway. So my preferred color of choice is typically the dark brown iteration of these releases. The only reason I didn't buy that boot is because I already own so many dark brown boots, and so this might have ranked a little bit higher if it was in my preferred color, but I made the obvious choice to not buy the brown pair and go with the black to have a little bit more versatility in my collection. But that doesn't mean it's a bad colorway. I actually really enjoy this as a black boot. It's obviously inspired by service boots and it has that really bulbous toe. And I personally think that the silhouette is flattering, but some people find it a little too bulky for their taste. So another reason that this boot ranks like slightly lower than the rest is because of the tagline that was used here. I personally don't mind it as much, but I think that the boot might have looked a little bit cleaner without it. But this is around the time Visvim started using like branding and slogans on some of their products, and so you have that slight branding detail there. But other than that, this boot's extremely versatile. The horsehide is some of the best that I personally have felt on a Visvim boot. This boot has held up to so much wear, probably more than other pairs that I own. And if this list was ranked on durability, this might have been a little bit higher. I mean, all these boots are pretty durable, but these in particular have seen so much wear and tear for me. And I think that, you know, they would have ranked higher in that sense, but I tend to feel less like passion and emotion towards them, and I look at them a little bit more as a, you know, a durable good versus something that, you know, I'm extremely, you know, passionate about. So I tend to reach for these when I'm looking for something reliable, not necessarily something exciting, if that makes sense. With that being said, let's enter the top 5. So cracking the top 5, we have the Visvim 7-hole 73 Folk Boot. So this boot is obviously inspired by jungle boots from the Vietnam War era. It's one of those silhouettes that's extremely comfortable right out the box. Much like the VIRGIL, this boot had virtually no break-in. The toe box is a lot wider than the VIRGIL, which allowed ample room for my feet to swell throughout the day. And while most people size down on these, I went true to size. Not to say that sizing is an issue, but you definitely feel the extra room in the toe box area. I typically wrap the laces around the boot to kind of secure them a bit more in order to get like a truly like, you know, solid fit. So the upper is composed of a vegetable tanned horsehide and the toes damage processed, while the back's just like smooth leather. And the rest of the upper is composed of like a canvas German cord material, and it's really comfortable, really breathable. The custom Vibram branded outsole similar to that of the VIRGIL with the TPU stabilizer. You also have the Swiss Riri zipper that makes this boot extremely easy to put on. I think that using silver eyelets was extremely clean versus some of the brass eyelets that have been used on other releases. The story with these is I was asking Janique to keep an eye on them because I had seen the Contrary Department release photos earlier in the year via the brand's Instagram, but they were a Black Friday release, so I waited a few months for them to come out. But as soon as they came out and as soon as Janique told me they were in, I immediately went and bought these along with the Decoy boot that I showed earlier. So while these are a grail for me and they're only sitting at number 5, I think that one of the reasons for that is because I think that the damage processing on the toe box is a little too much. I kind of wish that I had gotten a pair where the suede kind of and the leather was kind of like a little bit higher and it wasn't like this whole damaged piece here. I've gotten compliments on it. Some people like it. They akin it to looking like something like elephant skin, for those of you that collected Jordans in the past or still currently do. And I can see that, but it's not necessarily my favorite. It's kind of, you know, out there and brings a lot of I'd say attention to the toe box. I just wish there was a little less damage processing and the whole toe box wasn't this texture. But while that might not be my favorite, like, you know, damage processing, some of you might think that it's better than the other pairs, and so that's the reason why it ranks at number 5. So at number 4, we have a newer pickup, and that's going to be the Visvim Cossack Boot in sand. So this might surprise you guys. I've been posting daily highlights on my Instagram story, kind of talking about the journey of these boots. Right now we're kind of at the halfway point throughout the 30-day wear test, and I'll be putting out that video pretty soon. So I'll hold off on giving all the details on this boot, but just a few notes. So the upper is composed of a vegetable tanned horsehide and cow leather. The leather on this, similar to the Poundmaker, is one of the more durable that I've personally felt on Visvim releases. I'm a really big fan of when Visvim does these custom branded Vibram outsoles. It makes the boot feel a little bit more special than just buying something that's kind of off shelf from some of these brands. The toe box is a little less damage processed than the 7-hole boot that I just showed, and so I think I enjoy that a little bit more. It's a little more subtle. And while I did say that I prefer to buy these boots in dark brown, I think that I was missing the sand version of some of these releases, and rather than having just a suede version of the Virgil, I thought that I should pick up a sand colored boot. The Cossack is a newer model, and it's honestly grown on me a tremendous amount. There's a few things that have changed about it that I'm going to save for the full video, but for now, these are, really up there on my list. They look good from just about every angle, and yeah, that's number 4. So now we're cracking the top 3. The placement of these top 3 was relatively simple for me to do, but I could see how some might see it as like a greatest hits compilation almost. And at number 3, we have the Visvim ICT T.W.O boot from 2024. What can I say about this boot that hasn't already been said? So I have a full review on the channel as well, kind of going a little bit more in depth with this release, but just to kind of briefly sum it up, I've been wanting a pair of 2 boots. I was given the opportunity to purchase a pair in 2022, but they were way too small. I didn't think I'd be able to own a pair up until Janique let me know that another size 12 was available for me to try on. And these were a little bit less damage processed than the previous pair that I had tried in 2022. So when I went into the store, tried them on, I struggled a little bit to get them in, but once they got in, I was like, I cannot take these off. I need to, take these with me. And so while the price point is a little bit higher than I think it should be, more than anything, this is a boot that's extremely versatile. The hype surrounding it, especially because Hiroki was wearing the T.W.O boot for a very long time, is pretty up there. But it's one of those classic Visvim silhouettes that I could understand the hype behind, right? I don't agree with the price point on these, but they're just a nice way to get into the engineer boot style. And they're honestly way simpler to style and wear than I thought that they would be. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the top 2. So if you guys have been following the channel, you probably know what's at number 2, and that's going to be the ICT GRIZZLY Boot from 2023. I've given the story now on the Overdye channel, and I've talked a little bit about it on my channel as well, but I purchased these boots at the Friends and Family opening of the Carmel location for Visvim. I got to meet Hiroki, spend time with my brother, and got to purchase one of the grails that I've been wanting to buy since, being turned on to Visvim. And so these just hold a really special place in my Visvim collecting journey, and it's one of those boots that truly does live up to the hype. These things are tanks. The leather is extremely comfortable. These, much like the Virgils and the 7-holes, had basically no break-in for me. They do run half a size big for some people. Because I have a wider foot, I just stuck true to size and got an 11, and they've worked out great. There's not really much more that I can say that hasn't already been said about these. I'm just really happy that I own them, and they're gonna stay with me basically forever. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at number 1. So for those of you that are curious, I did take on-foot footage of all the different boots. However, when editing the video, I realized that all the footage was out of focus, so it was a complete waste. So while I picked up the Grizzly boot after meeting Hiroki, I was actually wearing my number 1 boot when I met him. So at number 1, we have the KAINAI Mock Toe. For those of you that know me personally, you know that this is my absolute favorite boot release from Visvim. So while this might seem like a shock to many of you, because it's not a hype boot, it's a main release item, and there's, you know, nothing necessarily too special about it, I personally think that this is top 3 silhouettes that Visvim has ever put out. I'll get into some of the reasons why I think this is the best boot that Visvim has released. Number 1, this one's sentimental. This was the first boot that I bought. I paid full price for it when it came out. I believe retail was like around $1,200. And this was like kind of like the marking like for me where it was like, all right, this is pretty serious now. If I'm spending this kind of money, I must be really into the brand. It was my first really big commitment in my Visvim collecting journey. They went to other retailers, not just Visvim. And when I saw them, they reminded me of some of my favorite elements that Visvim currently has. So my understanding of the naming convention for this boot is that the KAINAI tribe is from Alberta, Canada, and they were known for hunting bison. One of the reasons this is my favorite boot is because of the leather used here. So this is a vegetable tan bison leather, and I don't know if you guys can tell, the amount of grain and texture that these boots have is second to none. I think this is probably the most handsome leather that Visvim has used, in my opinion. I think that the way that the leather creases, it bends, like the rolls you kind of get on the toe box are extremely flattering, and they just look extremely cool. They have a mock toe similar to the Grizzly boot, but without all the different layers and like moccasin like panels that that boot has. And so I think that this is a cleaner, you know, silhouette than the Grizzly. Also, this has 8 eyelets versus being a very tall boot, and so I like the height of this one as well. You can still wear it with all different kinds of pants and jeans, and the height doesn't necessarily prevent you from wearing a slimmer pant. The upper, I can't stress this enough, the composition of the upper is extremely soft, supple. There's so much texture going on here, and it hides wear extremely well. While this pair isn't mud dyed or anything like that, I really enjoy the dark and like deep brown color that it has, and it kind of gives off the appearance of being mud dyed. The tonal stitching throughout is also really nice. It's a very rugged looking boot, but it kind of looks dressy a little bit too, if that makes sense. So my camera died in the middle of the other recording, so sorry if the colors or the placement isn't exactly where it was, but anyways. This boot is extremely durable. I've worn it in snow in Chicago, I've worn it in the desert in Palm Springs, and it just holds up really well. So if you guys have a chance to check these out, or you know, if you see one for sale, I would highly recommend picking these up. I cannot sing them enough praises. They're extremely easy to wear. They've got the styling of like a Grizzly boot without all the different paneling. They have the durability of the Poundmaker. The leather is extremely hard wearing, and you know, while they're not mud dyed, the dark brown color is extremely rich and it hides stains extremely well. And it almost looks like it has been mud dyed, so that's a cool little touch. The custom sole is a nice branding opportunity from Visvim, and it's kind of subtle in the way that you're able to see it from the side of the boot. The leather stacked heel is a little bit dressy, kind of formal, but lends itself to giving off the appearance of a traditional work boot. The laces are, you know, a raw leather lace, and they're extremely thick, nice and supple, easy to wrap around the boot, which is how I personally wear them, and it just rolls, and the leather here just ages so gracefully. And honestly, this is the boot I enjoy wearing the most. I think it looks the best. It combines, you know, style with comfort and durability, and I think this is the pinnacle of what Visvim makes. So that's the number 1. Thank you all for tuning in to the ranking of my Visvim boot collection. Do you agree with my rankings? Let me know in the comments. Is there a certain boot that you think I underrated? Is there one that you think I might have overrated? I'd also like to hear about what boots you guys have in your own personal collections and what your favorite pairs from Visvim might be. With all that being said, I really appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Thank you all again for tuning in. I really appreciate the constant support and feedback that you guys provide. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Peace.